Thank you for tuning in to Omni Wellness Studio, hosted by Keith Osment and Ali Rico. Through this podcast, we hope to bring you inspiration, knowledge, and strength through hearing about our experience and others that will help you win each day in life, business, and fitness. Welcome back to the show. So I got a special guest in the house today for you. How do you say your last name, Sean?
Ostrowski.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Sean Ostrowski.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Okay. Well, Sean, tell me what you do for a living, a little bit about you. I know you're a chiropractor, and I've been to your business before and enjoyed it and made me feel a lot better, and you seem like you stay busy at that. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and how you got into it. Like what inspired you to get into chiropractic care?
Yeah, I'll back into that because who I am is a tough. I always find that really hard to answer. But I am a chiropractor. I think what got me into it is I was when I was in high school. I knew I wanted to do something to take care of people. I always felt like more than likely I would end up in the healthcare field, right? As a nurse, and I think it's interesting because my ideas of how that would look changed. Yeah, I think in the beginning it was okay. I thought I would be good at nursing because all my health, allied health classes came really easy to me. Right. I was part of something called HOSA, which is I think it's even here in Georgia. It's like a Health Occupation Students of America. I was in a club there, president of that club, and so I was very conscious of going into the healthcare field.
You just wanted to help people feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I thought medicine was how I wanted to do that. I guess I just didn't really have any other frame of reference, right? And fast forward a little bit, I started realizing that, okay, I don't really want to be a nurse. That's really not my field. Right. I wanted to go a little further, and I think the money part of it was probably there. As a high schooler, you see people that are doctors, and they're usually have a pretty financially secure lifestyle. And I think I've always had a pretty good understanding that that's what I wanted for my life. I wanted to make sure I could have a family. I wanted to make sure I could take care of the family well and not be like scrapping.
Right. I guess you also knew what was ahead of you as far as schooling, because that's not an easy. To me, it's not an easy path.
No,
as far as all the schooling, man, you got to be a special. To me, that's a talent of it in itself, because I'm not wired that way. Maybe I could have hunkered down and went through it, but man, to me that just takes a special set of skills just to get through all that schooling and the mindset, especially at such a young age.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. I think it's different affinities, right? Like you just said that you're maybe wired a little different, not wired worse, right? I think that's something I tell people a lot is I have a good friend, his name's Travis. He's here in town and he's an electrician. Well, he doesn't understand doctor stuff, but man, he's very bright and brilliant when it comes to working anything electrical. And you can really see him shine when he's talking about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you put yourself down a lot, but you're a very, very smart guy. And so I think I've always leaned into that with people too, is just because school didn't fit doesn't mean that you're not bright. There's a lot of people like that.
Just like the guy I was telling you I had in here yesterday, the inventor. Mm-hmm. He didn't graduate past 10th grade.
Exactly.
All F's. I mean, he just flunked out. And then, like 10 years later, he's a millionaire. And I was actually having a conversation, and we'll get back into the question. Yeah. I was having a conversation with a young woman yesterday. She's a practice member, but she's a 17-year-old, and she's a track athlete, but she was a competitive gymnast, and she's a competitive cheerleader as well. So she's trying to figure out where she wants to go to college. And one of her bugaboos that she's in the middle of, okay, do I want to go to this school, which has a track scholarship and it's a private school, smaller school, quieter school, probably going to miss out on some of the parties, right? Mm-hmm. Or do I want to go to this other school where she'll be a competitive cheerleader, bigger school, bigger football program, all that kind of stuff, more of a college experience. Mm-hmm. And I'm asking her, what do you want to do? And she says, well, I want to do something in psychology, and then also helping people physically too. But then last month she was talking about she wanted to be a chiropractor, and the month before that she wanted to be an influencer. And I said, it's okay that you don't know right now because you're still so young. And I think we put these ideas that you have to have it all figured out at 17 or 18 years old. And I said, the truth is I've changed my major in college 6 times. my dad was not sure I was even going to finish.
Really? I didn't know that. I thought it was just a clear shot.
No.
You knew you wanted to be a chiropractor, and you just went straight for it.
Not even close. That's what I was getting into. At one point, he was like, dude, you got to figure this out.
He was getting a little impatient with you?
Impatient, but always supportive. I'm very blessed. My dad has always been behind me. Going back to that question, I started off in the healthcare field, wanted to do nursing. Then I wanted to be a doctor. Then I thought, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get into medical school. It's all very competitive. And so I thought, okay, I'll be a physician's assistant, a PA, right?
All right.
Still a very good lifestyle. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Took all the classes, organic chemistry, all that good stuff, calculus. I was in it, and then everything was fine. And then I went and shadowed some physical physician's assistants and realized that just wasn't what I wanted to do. I saw that there was a very heavy, like a burdensome lifestyle. It wasn't really happy. It wasn't fun. It wasn't interacting with the people or their patients.
Yeah.
I hate that word, by the way. They weren't interacting with their patients very, very like lovingly. It was very transactional, and I was like, this does not look like the
almost
lifestyle I want to live.
Just a assembly line.
Very dry. I mean, think about the doctor's offices you go to. Do they love on you? Do they laugh with you? Very seldom, if you're lucky.
And unfortunately, they just don't have the time. I mean, if they know that if they open up that conversation, that's putting them 10 minutes behind the next person. So they got to keep it short and sweet and dry.
Yeah.
And to the point.
Yes, I agree with you. But I have a very busy schedule too. And matter of fact, I would wager I see probably 2 or 3 times what most medical doctors see in a day. And I have to physically put hands on people and deliver some sort of result within the 3 to 5 minutes I see people. But at the same time, I still, am loving on them, talking with them.
Yeah,
it was just a different way I wanted to take care of people. So anyways, fast forward, I started thinking, okay, I started really getting into I was in college, and I started realizing, man, I'm really skinny. I got no muscle mass, and I wanted to learn how to start putting on some muscle because, I hope to meet a good-looking woman one day. And so I was like, this just isn't working out, And so I started exercising and working out. And one of my good friends at Wayne State University, actually, he was on the football team. He was one of the centers for the football team, big old dude. And I'll never forget, his name was Mark, and I was in the gym and just scrawny. Picture this scrawny guy. Like I was probably 150 pounds soaking wet, and I was about 6'3", so I was really a really tiny guy. I'm in there bench pressing, and I'm doing everything probably wrong because this is way before I understood anything about exercise science. But he comes over and he goes, "You need a little help?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And so, honestly, I kept on asking him all these questions about how to get bigger, how to get stronger, and he was like, "Well, if you want, I'm here every day in the weight room anyways," because he worked at the rec center there on campus. He goes, "I'm here every day, so if I'm here, I can walk you through some workouts and show you." And so he goes, "It ain't a beach body workout though. Like, you're gonna get strong and you're gonna put on some muscle." He goes, "I don't think you're gonna I'm not worrying about getting your abs or anything like that." But it was true to his word, man. I incrementally got stronger, and I started seeing my shoulders fill out, my chest fill out.
That's awesome.
And then I kept on asking him question after question after question. I realized that the questions I had ended up maxing out his ability. Just because he wasn't really focused on that. He's focused on power, raw output, right, as football players usually are. And so then I started finding other people that had other answers, and I started watching more YouTube videos and just fell in love with the idea of fitness and just getting strong, how the body could be molded, how the body could be shaped, how the body could be stretched and pushed to the limits, right? And so then within a couple of years, I think I went from 150 pounds to 225 pounds, right? And that was, I thought 225, 235 was a good goal for someone who's 6'4". And then I started taking it further. I wanted to do like bodybuilding, or not bodybuilding, because I never really wanted to get up there in a bikini or bikini. No offense to those guys, a Speedo, but I did the board short thing, and probably because I didn't want to lift my legs hard enough or whatever it might be. But I fell in love with learning how to move. And then I met a friend, a buddy of mine was going to school at Saginaw Valley State University. And so, mind you, I'm still at Wayne State, bouncing around though. I'm figuring, I don't know what my major is going to be. I went from, like I said, nursing, and I went to pre-med, then I went to pre-PA, and then at one point I thought I wanted to be a gym teacher.
So I was all over the place. Man. My dad was losing his mind. He's like, come on. And so I go and visit my buddy Ryan because he's on a track scholarship in Saginaw Valley. And I ended up running into one of his friends, one of his roommates who was on the track team as well, and he's studying exercise science. And this guy's built like a brick crap house, he still is. And he's incredible, man. He's a machine. But he started telling me he does exercise science. I'm like, that's a thing? Like, you can just study exercise, And it blew my mind. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, we have one of the better programs in Michigan for it. And I said, cool. I honestly didn't even pray about it. I just
did it.
I transferred. Within like a week, my dad was like, you did what? And I said, yeah, I'm transferring. I'm going up to Saginaw, and I'm going to live there.
This is what your sophomore year, freshman? This is in college, right?
I was probably, it was going in to be a junior. So I bounced around for 2 years and wasted 2 years probably.
Did you really waste them? Was it a lot? Because I tell a lot of kids I see go into college and the same thing. They don't know what they want to do. But to me, if you're knocking out like, is this a thing? If you're knocking out like core classes and classes you're going to have to take anyway while you're figuring it out, is it really wasted time?
Wasted time? No. Wasted money? Yes. So I went to a school that was pretty expensive.
Gotcha.
Wayne State is a liberal arts school, so they're not cheap. I could have went to a community college and done everything I did.
Yeah, I got you.
The interesting thing about Wayne State is because it's a liberal arts college, it's a very rigorous school. So when I transferred to Saginaw, they're not as rigorous. So it was a nice transition from the school I went to what the expectations were of me at Saginaw. Not bad, just less schoolwork, less homework, more learning in the classroom, which I liked.
So for anybody that's listening that's got kids, going trying to figure it out, would you recommend, hey, if your child just doesn't really know what they want to do, but yet they still have the desire to go to college, you say just stay to a community college at first.
Yeah.
Don't go shipping off somewhere.
Yeah, unless they're an athlete and they have a chance to have their school paid for,
okay,
and they can bounce around and enjoy playing, and then kind of figure out their life. I would say go to a community college and
knock out some stuff,
knock out some core credits.
Yeah, you
shadow some careers.
Meet people, it's going to open up other ideas once you get out there.
Yeah. Here's another thing I'd recommend. Go spend some time working in a real job. Like go work on the roads, or go do construction. Go work in a factory. I worked in a factory for a while. It was an aerospace company, a very blessing to have that job, but it just was not what I wanted to do, and I realized that really quick. Started looking around at who's there, not to put down on people, but I just did not want to work in a factory for my whole life.
Yeah.
That was a strong motivator for me when I was in chiropractic school, because I'm over here like, okay, I can either hunker down when this sucks, or I can realize that the only way I'm going to make a living is by working in a factory. That's maybe not true, but
I get what you're saying,
that was a nice scare for me.
I had 2 factory jobs, and I was exposed and heard a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't have at a young age in a factory job. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
I got out of there pretty quick.
Yeah. So I would say for a parent, yes, make sure your kids go to a community college if they don't know. Save yourself some money, or take a year off. There's nothing wrong with taking a year off and just go get a job and get an idea of what you might not like doing in life. That way you're going to appreciate what money is.
That's what my girlfriend's son did, and he actually had some people give him a hard time about it. He knew he just needed to chill for about a year. He was working 2 jobs and just figuring it out, processing stuff. But, he would feel a little bit of pressure every time he would go to like a birthday party or a holiday, because everybody's want to know, what you doing now? Why ain't you in school? Why ain't you in college? Everybody think he's just sitting around, wasting, being lazy. But he was figuring it out, and now he's got like a really confident game plan. He's done got it back in motion, and he knows kind of what he wants to do now. And he's doing like some kind of electrical engineering or something like that. He's taking his classes over at the local community college, and then he'll transfer to like Georgia Tech in a couple of years.
Yep. And he didn't waste money.
Nope.
And that's I think, man, I have such a problem with the forced conformity that we have for our kids these days, even just in school structure in general. It's all about just forced conformity. Do this, and all of our schools have these certain pathways that lead to these certain jobs, and we're teaching people to be good employees, but we never teach anybody how to go out there and create something and become like a business owner or a leader, or create your own money structure. How are you going to create cash flow for yourself outside of depending on someone else to do it? And I think one of the cool things about going and working a job, maybe it's working for Spartan Smoothies or working for a Chick-fil-A, you get to see what the head honcho is doing, or you just get to see what other people are doing around you, and I think it teaches you the value of a dollar. and how hard it is to make $500 in a week, or how hard it can be. And it also allows you to see, okay, the guy that owns this place gets to come and go whenever he feels like it. He's always smiling. He knows a lot of people, and that's what I want. Okay, so maybe I don't want to be a teacher that's confined to a classroom for 8 hours a day. Maybe I want to have a little something different.
Right.
Maybe I should talk to him about how he got to where he went. Maybe I don't even need a college degree to do that. I don't like to say that. I don't like to knock on going to get a college degree, because there are certain things that you need to have a college degree for. But what I was telling this young lady yesterday is some of the best earners right now are people that are good on a keyboard.
Yeah.
They learn how to master the digital ad space, and now they create content, they create websites, a whole bunch of things that business owners like you and me, don't know how to do, or just don't want to learn how to do, and so we pay for it.
Yep.
Well, you don't need a college degree to become a digital marketing expert. You can just go on YouTube, or you can go and just take courses that are maybe a couple grand, save yourself, and then if that's what you want to do, right? So anyways, I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and so I kept on bouncing around, transferred to Saginaw finally, and that's where I found myself, at Saginaw Valley, is where I really found I had a bunch of great professors. I started learning about how the body moved, and about how this engine actually worked, and how to optimize it. And on top of that, I learned how to write exercise for clinical populations, people that have had heart issues, surgeries, Alzheimer's, strokes, all those kinds of things. I learned how to actually take care of those people physically, and how to train them.
Yeah, man.
How to write nutritional plans for them. I wasn't a dietitian, but you get pretty good at it. How to break down someone's macros and really figure out what they need from the standpoint of calories in order to build and stay strong and create the right composition for the body. And so that took me so far. I went and became a personal trainer. I bounced around in the fitness industry for a while. Did really well, and I built. So it's funny because that stepping stone led me to Anytime Fitness, where I started working for a guy who was just this hardcore, Bally Total Fitness salesman. Like he came from the kind of day and age where you had to be a spa man, right? And he was kind of a sleazeball in sales. Great dude. and he gave me a lot of opportunity, and I made a lot of money working for him at the time, but I thought it was a lot of money, which was really cool.
So give me one example of a sleazeball salesman. What's some of the stuff that he would do that you would consider sleazy? Like, I want to know, because this opens up a whole nother conversation we can have, but I've always been against, I need to refine my salesmanship at a point now in my life, but I haven't leaned towards sales, because I've always viewed all my sales experiences have been with sleazy. Mm-hmm. It's like gimmicky, but I'm at a point now where I know there's a way to do it clean and professional, because if you're in business, no matter what you're selling, you're in sales. You're in sales, I'm in sales. And I've always told Allie that if I had a little bit more salesman, I don't even want to call it sleazy or gimmicky to me, I could make more money. Because I don't push people at all. Because I'm afraid to push them, because I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, because I've been put in uncomfortable situations before on the spot. People try to upsell me and all that stuff, and it's just never nothing. I wanted to portray that energy to customers, but I know that in the business I'm in, especially if I want to start selling nutritional coaching, there's a way to do it in a professional way without being shady or sleazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I was gonna. Like I said a while ago, if you could say what was some of the sleazy stuff he would do, if you remember anything.
So sales, in my opinion, is all about finding value, right? And so in my business, it's finding value in what somebody can't do right now, and why it's important to them that they can't do it, and how we can how we can restore them, to that best quality of life. That has value to someone, right? Someone who has money but doesn't have their health and values their health will pay pretty much whatever it costs to, within reason, to get their health back, to get back to where they believe they are, right? The trick with sales is, I think, trying to figure out what that person values. And certain people have different levels of resistance. Like, you seem to have a high level of resistance, or I think there's another word for it, but I'm pretty sure it's called resistance. I'm the same way. When someone starts selling me, I can tell, and I don't like it.
Right.
You know, but however, if you do it charismatically and you ask me questions and you let me talk my way into why I need the service,
true,
then I'll actually pay whatever it is they're asking for, right? But you have to establish what my need is and why I'm having trouble meeting it. And if they could help, would that be something I'd want to do? And I think the answer is yes, but it has to be my idea. And so I think sometimes you have to be careful about how you do it. So I think some of the things he would do that were a little sleazy, and he probably won't ever hear this, but maybe he will. But my thing is, if he did hear this, I would want him to know that I learned a lot. Yeah. And I learned a lot about how to shape that somewhat what you might call sleazy or gimmicky. There was a lot of just dishonesty, right? Hey, like, hey, if you do this, you're going to get these results. When it's like, not really, you're not 100%. Yes, you have a better chance of doing that, but you're not really going to just lose this weight because you start doing personal training.
Like ads that says, get your dream body in 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
8 weeks. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And there was a lot of dishonesty, like on some of the contracts and things like that. And it was, for me, it felt like you're saying whatever it takes to get the deal done. And you're really pushing people hard because you know time kills all deals, and so you gotta get that person in here right now. And if they're not willing to make a commitment to you right now, then F them. They're not serious about their health. Well, that's not true. There are different kinds of people. You know, there's something called the bank code, and there's different. And I'm still learning it, but there's different kinds of people. But I know that the K is in knowledge. You need to dazzle them with information and research about how your system is going to get them where they want to go before they purchase. They just won't do it. And a lot of times they'll go home and look at it and do their own research, and then they'll come back and look, okay, I'm ready to make a decision now. But you're not going to get them to make a decision that day.
Right.
Very rarely. You know, and then there's also people that are action. Like action is me. I'm an A. If you as long as you present the need, and I believe you that you can help me, I'll buy on the spot. And a lot of people, a lot of salesmen, a lot of leaders are usually like that, I would say. But when it comes to when it came to that was my big thing with him. But I learned a lot about how I could shape my own ability to sell myself. Cool. And I became really confident that, hey, if you give me the time, I can give you the results.
Did he put you in a sales position?
Well, I was a personal trainer, so I had to sell myself. So if you want to, in his structure, Anytime Fitness, basically a new person comes in as a new member, and then they get funneled to personal training. You get one free health assessment or fitness assessment where you take them on the floor and show them things and see what they can do. And really you're trying to show them the value of you.
Right.
Hey, can you see how this could help you moving forward to stay on track with goals? You mentioned that the reason why you always do this is because you don't ever get the goals you want is because you start in January, like we talk about, and then you never finish. What if you had someone to hold you accountable? Yes, you'll pay a little bit of money on the front side, but then you have this nice new car that you can drive for the rest of your life because you have the keys. Well, what if I can give you the keys and teach you how to drive that car? Wouldn't that be valuable? Yes. Great. And I have a lot of people that I've given the keys and shined up their car, and now they're doing it on their own. I love seeing them on Facebook and on Instagram. They're posting some of them look better than I do now. That's awesome. But I got confident in doing that, and so it wasn't sleazy for me because I knew I could deliver.
Right, yeah.
It's when you're not actually going to put the effort into learning how to be a good trainer and a good doctor or a good lawyer or whatever, and you're just scamming your way through the life.
Yeah.
So I think I learned how it's not just about making money off the person, but also delivering.
And just giving that value.
Mm-hmm. And so I took a lot of that information, and then I was in personal training for a while. And then honestly, getting back to the question, how to get to chiropractic school, I started dating a girl, and my wife will hear this, and it's not my wife, but I started dating a girl in Michigan, and she was a chiropractor. And I met her, honestly, it was crazy because I went on a date with another person, and we both just realized we were not going to be a good fit. We were literally laughing at the table about how we just weren't a good fit for each other, right? And she goes, but I have a friend that I think you would really like, and I think she would like you too. She goes, she's literally at home. Why don't you come back to my house? I want you to meet her.
Dang.
So I did, and we literally all just hung out, laughed, and I honestly did hit it off with this girl, and she was a chiropractor. And so I got to know her, and I really liked her personality. and she was really intelligent. She knew a lot about the human body, right, beyond what I knew. And I would come in and stop into her office every now and then.
So this was an older woman.
She was probably a year or two older than me.
Okay, I got you.
So I was a little late into the game of chiropractic, but she would have me come to her office if I wanted to get adjusted or something like that. But I'd hang out for a little bit, and I'd get to see her interacting with her patients, practice members. I call them practice members, but she would get to interact with them, and I'd be like, wow, this is really, really cool. And there'd be times when someone would have a concern that she might be a little bit like, I don't know what to do about that. Well, I had my exercise mind, and I'm like, have you tried this? And they'd be like, yeah, I'll try that, and then they were like, wow, that actually does feel good. And these are people that are like trying to work out but couldn't do it because they had pain, and she's trying to help them through it. And I'm like, what if you just did this a little different? And then she started really speaking life into me and being like, hey, you would really be good at this with your background and the way you talk to people.
You can tie in the exercise portion to the chiropractic and be kind of like this hybrid.
Yep. And she goes, people will follow you because you really, not only you walk your walk, but you also are a good leader at you can explain things really well. You communicate well. And I said, really? I didn't see any of these things in myself. I mean, I knew I was good at somewhat selling myself as a personal trainer, but she goes, yeah, with your ability to talk to people and sell yourself and create value for them, and then also just really communicate what it is what they need, you're going to do fine. And she goes, and you also have the anatomy background that most of these students don't have when they start this program. Yeah. So I was like, really, really? Okay, I'll look into it. It's like $150,000 to go to school. That's not even counting what you need to live. That's just your tuition. And so I'm like, well, how am I going to do that? And she goes, believe me, the money is there. When you're done, the earnings are there. It doesn't mean you have to be sleazy or try to go crazy, but people need you. And so don't worry about the money. Well, I did worry about the money, and so I put it on pause for a while. We eventually split up, and, for long story short, I ended up meeting another person I ended up hurting myself, hurt my back. And then I ended up going to another chiropractor, and they helped me a lot. And then they showed me a little bit about their practice too. And I revisited the idea, and I ended up going to chiropractic school. And it was
it's just you're just student loans. You're just taking advantage of student loans and just the any kind of grants or funds you can get your hands on.
Yep. And so I got to chiropractic school, and it was the best decision that I didn't make for the right reasons, right? So I got there thinking I was going to be a personal trainer style chiropractor, basically do physical therapy, because as a chiropractor, you're a doctor. You can basically treat people however you want. You can do whatever you want is within the confines of your scope. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do all these other things. I got there and was just blown away with the fact that, wow, God was really working the entire time. Every mistake or every little thing I thought I was doing wrong, every change in my major that led me to someone new, that led me to another person, that led me to another conversation, that led me to going to the Arnold Classic all the time, meeting people there, going and meeting Trevor that taught me about exercise science, that I went and transferred there, meeting those professors, running into personal training, meeting that guy that was kind of sleazy but taught me everything I needed to know about sitting down in front of someone and communicating value and talking about money. Yeah. That's a hard thing to do, and what a lot of chiropractors struggle with. And they get really uncomfortable about, hey, here's the cost. And so all those things led up to chiropractic school. And I got there, and it became, wow, there is this innate intelligence inside of you. And I did say innate intelligence, in an inner intelligence, whatever. I call it, God, spirit, but there is something that animates your life. Right. And it's the difference between a cadaver sitting right here in front of us. If we cut a cadaver's finger, it's not going to heal. Right. You cut your finger, it's going to heal. What does that? It is the innate intelligence that your body has. Your brain and your nervous system control every single part of your body. And as we adjust the spine, we can actually integrate and make changes and make impulses into that nervous system and help it change and help it restore and remove problems that we create by eating bad, by thinking improperly, and by moving and doing physical things wrong. I was like, holy crap, this is like what I was meant for. But I didn't even know. I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there day one in like the whole intro thing, what do you call like the not commencement, but the big assembly where they basically kind of just give you a rundown, right? And I'm like, man, this is incredible. How did I end up here for all the wrong reasons, but it was the perfect place for me. And I realized I'm not going to be a physical therapy kind of chiropractor. I'm going to be a straight up chiropractor, right? And I just, I don't do a lot of fluff. I move the bone. I assess the person. I move the bone that needs to be moved, take pressure off the nerves so that the body can heal. That's what we do in our office. And it was really cool how I got there. So the 20-minute answer, 30-minute answer to how I got there, that was it.
So where are you from, originally from?
I'm originally from Michigan.
Michigan, okay. And that's where you grew up? You grew up in Michigan?
Yes, sir. And then chiropractic school is in Georgia. And so they're all over the place, but I was thinking if it's cold in Michigan, if I have to go somewhere for chiropractic school for 4 years, I might as well go someplace nice. And so I moved to Atlanta. And that's where the chiropractic school is. And
what's that school called?
Life University.
I've heard of that.
And there's all different kinds. There's all different ones. Life University and Palmer are probably the two best right now. Palmer's in Iowa. That's like where it all started. That's where chiropractic was invented and created. And so there's a lot of nostalgia there. But Life has, in my opinion, a better program right now. And so I went there, and that's how it all kind of met my wife, who is from Rome, Georgia.
And that's how you ended up in Rome.
That's how I met. And then we have our little one now, and so it's been an incredible journey, an incredible start to this awesome career. And who knows where we'll go? I know that Rome has a special place in my heart now, and hers always. So, we're just figuring it out.
What's your opinion on Rome? I've lived here my whole life, so like I don't know any different. So like when you take somebody like yourself that's from Michigan, and then you lived in Atlanta, and then you see this little town called Rome, and you've been living here for how long now? For a few years. I've
been in Rome for a little over 2 years now.
So like, is Rome okay? Is Rome cool? What's special about it? Like, I just want to know your opinion. Somebody I've never really asked that question. Like, I mean, is it like
Rome has a lot of cool features?
I agree. It's like a small big town. It's like an island.
That's what I was about to say.
It's weird. It's like it's a small town, but we have 2 Walmarts. We have it's crazy.
Yeah. The major differences between Rome and Michigan, where I'm from, because Michigan has spots like Rome too.
Yeah.
But where I come from is there's 2.5 million people in the county, right?
Jeez.
And so we have 3 malls that are massive within a 10-mile space. So you have one road that goes miles and miles and miles, and within like about a mile from my house, you have a big outdoor mall. Beautiful place, right? Really expensive stores. Yeah, LA Fitness right there. Down the road, there's another mall. And guess what? There's another LA Fitness 4 miles down the road.
That's like
Let's think about that. If LA Fitness is there's another LA Fitness 4 more miles up the road. So if there's an LA Fitness there's an LA Fitness up the road here and there and there. Just think about how many people there are. They're not stupid businessmen, so they know there is a population, right? The high schools in that area are insane too. So I think Rome High School has like 400 or 500 people in the graduating class, maybe a little bit more. That's a massive school. Well, we have 4 or 5 schools within 10 miles that have 750 per class.
Jeez.
750 students. I came from a school with 250. So, I grew up in a smaller part of Michigan. My dad lives in this Macomb area, which is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I lived there for a good majority of my life, though. I moved back with him.
Do you agree that different areas and different demographics and different populations open up new opportunities? Because I know for me, I'm kind of like on the opposite end of you. I've been from Rome my whole life, and sometimes I wonder, is that like, do I have like some natural boundaries that I've created with myself and my abilities because I'm in a smaller town, versus what if I applied this same work ethic and ideas or concepts to a bigger town? Would it thrive even more? Like, what would a Keith be able to do in a different population, a bigger city with maybe another Spartan Smoothies nutrition shop? How would that do in a different area? But on the flip side of that, I wonder sometimes if the reason this one does so well is because they all know me. It's because I've kind of been known as the the fitness guru in this area for the past 20 years. I mean, you ask anybody in the area if they've known me my whole life, and they say, yeah, he's the fitness guy, he's the nutrition guy. So I didn't know if that was a concern to you, coming from such a big town and then being like, oh man, I got all this student loans, I'm starting a business in a little 20,000, 30,000 population town. How's that going to work out?
I know.
Was that a concern?
Oh yeah, when we first started.
Because like in my mind, something like relentless and offering what you do, I'm like, how well would that do in like Atlanta? But if you go to Atlanta, they're probably on every street corner, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you might, I don't know what your opinion was on that.
Well, coming into, I think it's important to address your first question. I think that what's special about you and Spartan is that you have a lot of people that come there and buy smoothies. One, because they're good and they're high quality, but also because they like you. And so, when I go to, if I didn't know JJ, I would never go to Smoothie King. But I know JJ, and so I like him, and I'll go there and support him, right? Yep. The same reason why, I go to Spartan Smoothies, because I like you and I want to support you, but also, the quality's there too.
Yeah.
And it's also very convenient for me. If you were in a bigger town, I think you would still do very well. I think what maybe in your mind holds you back, if you do feel that way, is this moral compass. I think when you live in a small town, you're a little bit more, what's the word? You have to answer for the things you do. Right, and say and the actions you even if it's like when you're going out on Thursday to have a margarita, you gotta make sure that when you're in Rome, people don't see you doing stupid stuff, or just the way you do dealings, what you say to someone, how you treat someone, the customer service. I got a guy the other day come in, swears he didn't sign up for Stretch Rome, and which is a different business we started, but he swears he didn't sign up. Right, we have a solid process. You either put your card down on file, and if you choose to quit, we won't charge it. Right, it's not how we do things.
You don't accidentally just sign up.
But when we call you twice, 3 times, and let you know, hey, you said you wanted to pay cash, we're good with that. But we do keep a card on file, and then when we tell you 3 or 4 times, leave you messages, and then you don't want to get back to us, that your card's going to be drafted on the 15th unless you come in and pay. Well, he didn't do that, and then got all upset when this card drafted. It's like $200,
right?
And he said, "I'm a really well-known businessman. I can either make your life great here in Rome or bad." Yeah. I didn't even know that before I met the guy, but when I met him and smoothed all this out, I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. He can refund it for you if you want. Yeah. I said, I'm not really that concerned about it. I want you to make sure you have a good experience. Well, then I find out that he had made these threats prior. Man, all I wanted to do was call him back and be like, you know what?
Yeah.
No. If you're a businessman, you understand how business works.
Right.
However, I feel like my heart was telling me, give this guy his money back. He didn't feel like he understood the process. I'm not going to fault him for that just so I can keep $200 in my pocket. Yeah. That is not the way to do business. And so in a bigger town, maybe I wouldn't have done that.
Right.
I think that's what's nice about Rome is it holds you accountable.
You're right.
Small towns hold you accountable to being a good person. Sometimes when you live in big towns, you deal with people that just don't give a crap about you, and you are just another number. And so I think that's what maybe would allow you to make certain decisions that you could grow bigger, but it's kind of like at what cost?
But at the same time, you got a good point there. I didn't realize that since I started off, and all I know is Rome, and I've learned to that's actually an awesome point you just made. It's kind of forced me to walk on eggshells with people, so to speak, and do the right things, because you're right, it does magnify tenfold in a small town. So since that's been instilled in me, that's just kind of how I'm wired now. That would carry over very well into another business somewhere, because they're going to be like, wow, these people actually care. You're not just a number. Mm-hmm. So it could go either way with that. So because that's something I'm considering. I'm considering branching out and opening up another location. Yes, I know it's going to be more time and a headache, but I do feel like I'm a big believer in your vibe attracts your tribe. Getting the right team in place, do the right training, be a good boss, a good leader. Paying them fair and well, and that way, in the beginning it may take a lot of my time, but hey, get this thing off the ground, have a good team in place, just come up. Because if I let that be my fear, you would never see multiple restaurants of any kind if that person that started it was like, I'm only going to do one, because I just can't stretch myself that thin. Like I know for me personally, there's a fine line between being super stressed out and maxed out and something taking my time, but I also like freedom. So, but I feel like people would appreciate another nutrition shop like what we have, and maybe even like a Relentless. You're opening up one in Calhoun, right? Mm-hmm. So you feel like people in a different area would appreciate what you're doing.
I hope so.
Yeah, same here.
I think, and one of the questions I know you wanted me to touch on was was the challenges of opening a business. And we kind of, I wanted to answer that first question and then kind of go back to this one. But if you're smart, you have to be careful how you open a business and where. And I think I wouldn't say that I'm not going to lie and sit here and say, oh, I did so much research and all this. Like people like Kroger, people like Publix, they do the research for you. And so if you follow big stores like Target and Kroger and Publix, they don't go out of business because they do a really good job of vetting the area. Now, that doesn't mean that demographic works for you. However, it means that there's a population of growth there. They won't usually put stores in places where they're not growing by at least 2% per year. And so that's one thing to think about when you're going into a market. And also saturation. What is your marketing dollar gonna look like? So those are things I looked at when we were picking our second. Well, first of all, with Rome, I knew that Rome was a pretty well-known area. And my wife thought it would be a good place to open up a chiropractic office. And I said, okay, well, let's do a little bit of homework. You have a couple of well-known chiropractors here in town. They all do things a little bit different than how we wanted to do it. So I felt like we could be a little bit novel. And then also because you're new, you always have the advantage of being the new guy. Everyone wants to try out the new guy. Well, when that happened, we had a lot of people come in that wanted to try us out. Well, I've been going to a chiropractor for a while, but wanted to try you guys out. I saw you guys were new. I would usually try to pump the brakes on them really quick and be like, listen, if you're having a good experience with the person you're with, stay with them. And that comes down to the small town thing. I didn't want any chiropractors here in town to think I was just trying to poach their practice members. And, but on the other end, if they're not doing a good enough job of making their practice members feel loved and appreciated, then you're going to lose them. We will too. I mean, it's just the way it goes. That's how the market works, I think. But when we looked at Calhoun, we're looking, okay, Adairsville's growing, but not at the same rate. Calhoun is growing at about 2.5-3% per year, which is pretty good. And, there's good schools out there. And we also started thinking, okay, if we had to live somewhere, where else would we maybe want to live or in this area? So we didn't want to go somewhere so far that we wouldn't want to go and live there,
Right.
And so we looked into Calhoun because, one, there's very little marketing dollars being spent right now in that area. So if we go there and we do want to spend some money on Facebook ads to get our name out in front of people, we're not really going to have to compete very hard. So,
right,
our dollar is going to go further, and we're gonna reach more people. And most of the chiropractors in that area are really good chiropractors, but they're established, meaning they're busy. One of the best guys in Calhoun right now is Dr. Ledford, Dr. Jason Ledford. He's great. I only hear good things about him. But he's very, very busy, and he's been doing it for a long time. And I don't know how many more people he wants to take. I'm not going to speak for Dr. Ledford, but it seems that his schedule's filling up, and it'll only lend itself to people that need good quality care, and he can't fit them in just because I think at this point he's done his part. He's trying to also scale back and enjoy his day-to-day life, and so looking for places like that aren't saturated with chiropractors, but also have a good established chiropractors in the area, but aren't spending money on marketing, because that's a really important thing when you start looking at where you're going to put your next smoothie shop.
It's funny you bring up Calhoun, because I was there for about a year. I was contemplating Cartersville-ish, Ackworth, in between Cartersville and Kennesaw area, or Calhoun. But the more I've sat on that idea, Calhoun keeps pulling me in closer and closer, not only from stuff like what I'm hearing from you, but other people. I feel like from a smoothie shop here in Rome, nutrition shop, we got a lot of people that come from Calhoun, and they're asking, when are you going to open one of these up in Calhoun? So we get way more people from Calhoun driving down Plainville, Dalton. Got a group of kids that come down from Dalton every now and then to hop on the body composition scale.
Really?
So I know we got some Cartersville folks that come and see us, but we got a lot of fans in Calhoun. So Calhoun's looking pretty promising for me too.
Yeah.
So,
the other cool thing, I've really liked about, with different is getting in touch with different gyms too, and creating maybe a partnership where you can open up a smoothie shop within, or a nutrition shop within their gym. Now, sometimes that can run into problems too, but I've seen some really cool relationships where you can really generate a good bit of traffic just because you have this steady stream of people, but
it really comes down to the goal. If you don't want to have somebody with their thumb on top of you, that's also a part of it. You start thinking about that. You can have a lot of people telling you what to do, how to do it. So
you graduated. You got your doctorate's degree. Your Dr. Sean
Ostrowski.
Ostrowski. I've always read it. I've never had to say it.
I always tell people,
Ostrowski.
It's exactly how it looks if you just look at it. Yeah, it does. It does look intimidating, but if you just sound it out,
Well, I guess everybody's so used to jacking up names that look like that. They're like, I'm not going to say it right.
Yeah. No, I know.
But that one is literally how it looks.
Yeah. It's been something that's been going on since I was a kid. I used to when you were getting called up in front of assembly, I'd be like,
oh my gosh. Even the teachers would struggle with it.
Say my name. Yeah. It's like they're going to get in, but then they butchered it. Yeah.
So cool. Doctorates, you're in Rome now. You got the Relentless Chiropractor up and going for a few years now. And you just recently had your ribbon cutting and grand opening for your, I guess you could call it umbrella sister and company next door, Stretch Rome. And basically, from what I understand, that's just it's not chiropractic care, but you basically just what it is. It's more of it's like a 30-minute, 1 hour stretch session where you got somebody putting you through all the movements and stretches where you couldn't do it on your own.
Yep. Or maybe you can and you still want to.
Right.
I think if anybody who's a fitness person out there, if we're all being honest, most of us don't stretch the way. If I had to guess, there's probably very little people in the world, unless you're a high-level athlete like Matthew Frazier or these CrossFit people, they're probably putting in the time with recovery. But most people do not mobilize or stretch the way they need to. Most of it's because it's annoying.
Well, yeah, it takes time. And as I'm getting older, I wish I would have done it long, because I'm dealing with, I've been working out for 20-something years, but I didn't stretch a lot, and I had some minor incorrect form techniques that has compounded over time to where now I have some muscular imbalances, and I sat on my wallet for years while I was driving, which caused like a pelvic tilt, and it's some piriformis muscle stuff. So I'm constantly having to. You can ask Allie when I get home. I'm on like a tennis ball. I'm on the floor rolling. And I feel like a lot of times I'm just poking at it and never really making it better. And I hear things like a tight muscle is a weak muscle. Then you get overwhelmed with YouTube information like, should you strengthen it? Should you stretch it? Should you massage it? So it's like, I've heard things where if you stretch it, you're actually making it worse. You need to strengthen it. It's very overwhelming. So
I'd say that, one thing that I really like about Stretch Rome, and again, I don't act like this was my brilliant idea. I actually was blessed with it. Someone said, "Hey, it would be a good idea. I think Rome would do really well with that." And I said, "You know what? Let's do it." I think that's what's special about people like yourself and people that open businesses is you just throw a dart at the wall and see what happens.
Yeah.
My dad, I think, is probably the most conservative person I've ever met. And I love him, but he knows how to stretch a dollar. I'll give him that. And he's very good with finances, but he's very conservative, very, very, I would say worried about losing it all, right? And with me, I'm just kind of like, well, look at what you have to gain if it goes well. And I think that's always been I'm a big motivated. I get motivated by fear of failure, and I think that's probably healthy, but not healthy at the same time. But when I heard the idea, I'm like, let's just go, let's do it. I'm like, I don't want to pay for a franchise model, which is like 150 to 200 grand to open up a Stretch Labs or open up a Stretch Zone or any of those big chains, right? I said, I'm good at creating systems. I've already done it for my chiropractic office with a lot of help. I don't claim to do that all on my own because I was kind of like turtle on a fence. I had so many people that helped me. To mention a couple, Dr. Ryan, Dr. Kristen, they are a couple in Knoxville. They helped me so much with building the chiropractic systems and procedures. So I couldn't be where I'm at without them. But I've taken and refined and made it my own. And now they're asking me questions sometimes. Not that I have all the answers, but we start. Now I'm actually in a passing down role sometimes. If they need help, I can help a little bit. Right? But they still are in a very much a help mentorship role to me. But it's cool when he asks me questions because now I can be like, wow, I've actually done something good here and now I can pay it back. Because I owe him a ton. But with Stretch, I was like, I can do this. I can do the procedures. It's simple. So I created my own procedures, created my own logo, took it to market, and I'm like, I saved myself $120 grand off what it would have cost me. And so
It is exactly what it sounds like. Passive stretching. People do not want to stretch themselves. We do it for you, and people love it. It's better than a massage because massage is great. It works on beating up the muscle tissue, creating like a controlled injury to the material, but it doesn't lengthen the muscle. And so when you can actually lengthen it over time, you're going to see improved mobility, improved range of motion. And to go back to what you're talking about, we use a technique. Dr. Josh has been a huge blessing to our office at Relentless Chiropractic. We use a technique called active release technique, where we can take a muscle like the piriformis and we can pin it down, not pin it, but hold it down in the opposite direction of stretch. So then you take the muscle through the range of motion, right? You take the leg through the range of motion. We pin that muscle down, and we're breaking up that fibrous adhesion in the fascial tissue.
And this is at Stretch Rome?
This is at Relentless Chiropractic.
Wow.
Yeah, so we can actually do that after your adjustment. If you're having piriformis issues, we pin that muscle down. Yeah. You go through ranges of motion that activate the piriformis. And by utilizing your muscle strength, we're able to open up that movement pattern. So it's a little bit better than doing rolling, and it's a little bit better than stretching. And by doing that, we can actually get you need to get the pelvis aligned, because otherwise the muscle is going to continue to get spasmed, right? And then because it's in a mechanical disadvantage. But then when you work on the tissue, you're going to get that tissue to relax and break up those adhesions.
Yeah, because like I think I have a couple of issues going on. I have my hip extension are always tight due to now a lot of sitting. I do a lot of sitting.
Yeah.
I work out every day, but then a lot of this sitting all day.
Yeah.
And then I have really tight quads, super tight quads. I'll get like a barbell and just roll it on my quads. And I have found that from having tight quads, then I'll have a lower back tightness.
Yes.
It's like a domino effect, man.
Yeah.
So
one big thing, and I know we have to wrap this up in like a minute, but one big thing to go off that what you just said, and what I love about chiropractic so much is there's just so many ways you can help people. And what a lot of people don't know about your iliopsoas muscle, which is what you're referring to, it does get really tight when you sit a lot. It is something that is usually under-strengthened, right? It's really tight but very weak, to go back to what you were talking about. But it attaches directly to the discs of your lumbar. So it's one of the only muscles that does that, but it attaches directly to the disc material, not a bone. It goes right to the disc.
Wow.
And it does that at I believe it's L1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So almost, and it might not be L1, I'm trying to remember my anatomy, but it attaches to a good deal, if not all, of the lumbar discs themselves. And so if you think about that, your discs have pain sensing fibers on them. And so as you get a lot of tension on the psoas muscle, iliopsoas muscle, not only are you having trouble extending because you have this rope holding down,
right,
but it's also yanking right on the discs. When you have really tight psoas muscles, it is 1-to-1, meaning it pretty much always means you're going to have low back pain. Because now here's the other kicker. Yes, you have tension on the discs themselves, but you also are working extra hard with your paraspinal muscles, your extensor muscles in the back of your spine. Those are working really hard in order to try to accommodate for extension, because you have all this pulling forward. Imagine you're just getting yanked forward like a lawn chair, but then you're still trying to pull that lawn chair up to fully straight. The muscles in the back are just getting super, super spasmed and beat up because they're having to do way too much work. Whereas if we can release that psoas, which we can do, you release that psoas and it starts to relax, and now you can actually stand up, and you're like, oh my God, I can actually stand up without, you don't realize how much effort it's been taking you all these years to stand up straight. And that blew my mind when I first started seeing psoas releases happening in our clinics and things like that too.
When you say low back pain, I know we got to wrap it up, but low back pain, like I've always, when I hear about low back pain, I feel like it's like somebody that has low back pain will have pain like in the middle of their lower back, like in the spine. Mm-hmm. The pain, I don't know if I have low back pain or lower back tightness. It always happens on the right side. Mm-hmm. On the right side, it's just on the right side, lower, but extreme muscle tightness. Is that there's a difference between that and pain, low back pain that you're referring to, right?
Yes, except for most people,
they classify low back pain as anything that is painful in the lower part of the spine, right? And I think as chiropractors, we kind of classify it because it helps us to talk to people about low back pain. But what it sounds like, and again, I haven't done an exam on you in a while. What it sounds like to me is that you have some SI joint, sacroiliac joint dysfunction, where with all the joints there, again, you talked about sitting on the wallet for a long time, so it puts some pelvic unleveling there, and there's probably a little bit of pelvic rotation. And so what tends to happen is that SI joint dysfunction leads to muscle spasms. And so if the SI joints don't move freely, it gets locked up. And then when you're bending, twisting, deadlifting, squatting, you're putting more stress on your lumbar vertebrae and on your sacrum has to do more work now because the SI joint's not moving well. And so because your SI joint's not moving very well, which is the makeup of your sacrum and your ilium, if you're trying to squat, but it's just not giving you the motion you need, now your L5 disc has to be put through more range in order to get that motion, right? Especially with squatting. And so it sounds to me like your pelvis is off level, and because of that, your piriformis is getting fired up. And so SI joint is still, I consider that low back because it is part of the pelvic and lumbar structure. Maybe you would call it more specifically SI joint dysfunction because it's off to that right side. I'm working through it. The more powerlifting is what opened my eyes up to some muscular imbalances, because obviously when you start lifting heavier weight, you realize real quick your weak links. So I'm kind of at a point in my life now where I'm kind of having to rebuild and rebalance these parts of my body that's been either neglected through the years due to not stretching or whatever, So I'm in a whole different stage of my life as I get closer to 40. To start rebuilding some of that, and it was with services like what you offer. I'm gonna come check out Stretch Rome. Hey, you should. I think you'll love it.
For the listeners, if you live in the Rome, Floyd County area, where are you located?
We're located right next to Spartan Smoothie. So if you know where the pop-up Chick-fil-A is in Riverwalk Plaza, we're right there, a couple doors over from Keith on Spartan Smoothies there, and we'd love to take care of you.
Where can they follow you? Look up social media.
Yeah, I always forget that part. You can follow us on Instagram. It is Relentless Georgia. And then you can, that's our website, relentlessgeorgia.com. Our Instagram is at Relentless Chiropractic. You can follow me at Dr. Sean, at Dr. Sean. I'm pretty easy to find, I think. But any questions, I'm always open to hearing too.
Well, man, I appreciate you being on. And,
thank you for having me.
This was fun. I'll get by there and see you. Yeah, it was fun, man. Well, we'll catch you next time.
All right, brother.
See you.
Thank you for listening to another episode. If you receive any value from the show, please share, subscribe, and give us a rating.